Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to have the discussion over if conditions in Python, over functions, and for loops and while loops. We're going to wait a few seconds for people to join, and then we are going to continue. Hello. Okay, let us begin. Let me share my screen. So now you should be able to see my screen now. So wait. So when I check here, I see that you cannot see my screen yet. Let me see what's wrong. Stop sharing. Sharing one more time. Okay. Okay. Now you're able to see my screen. So I would like to first of all start with the if conditions. I would like to start with an example here. For example, we would like to write a program that checks if a number is positive and print positive number message if it is. So here is my variable called x. It is assigned the value 25. And we are going to check if this 25 is larger than 15. So if this variable x that we initialize to be 25 is larger than 15, we're going to have this message being printed in the output. So for example, here 25, is it larger than 15? Yes. So this message is shown in the output when I run the code. So when I run the code, we see exactly this number. The x is greater than 15. So this message is shown in the output. However, if this number is not greater than 15, it is going to fall into this else part and print this message saying that the x is not greater than 15. For example, if I have my variable x equals 10, now I'm checking to see if this number 10 is larger than 15 or not. So 10, is it larger than 15? No, it's not. It's not larger than 15. Therefore, this message is not shown and this part of the code is not being executed. So we are going to go for the else part, and this message is printed in the output. The x is not greater than 15. So when I run the code, we see exactly this message is printed in the output. The x uh, is not greater than 15 as we see it here. So when we want to check a certain specific condition, we can use the if conditions in Python. And it's very simple. We write down the if keyword. Then we are having the statement, or let's say the condition, and colon. In the next line, we are going to discuss what will happen if this condition is true. And if this condition is not true, it is going to go for the else part, and this message is shown in the output. So this is how we can do the if conditions. Wait. Okay. Now we would like to go for another exercise with respect to the if conditions. Here, in order to do another example, we can see that we are having the marks equals 20. So if this variable that is called marks is larger than 90, we're going to have this message being shown in the output print. So print grade A. If this marks is larger than or equal to 75, we are going to have this message shown in the output grade B. And if it's larger than 50, this message is going to be shown in the output, which is grade C. And otherwise, if marks is not going to pass any of these conditions, it is going to print grade F for us in the output. So first of all, when I run the code, because marks equals 20, we are going to have the grade F in the output. However, if we change this value, for example, now if I have the value 95 here and I run the code, we see that grade A is being printed in the output. Why? Because the compiler starts executing the code from here. So 95, is it larger than 90? Yes, this condition is true. So this part of the code is being executed. Print grade A, and grade A is being printed in the output. Well, let me change this number. For example, now I would like to have 88. So the mark of the student is 88. And first of all, the compiler starts from here. So it checks to see if this marks is larger than 90. Is it true? 88, is it larger than 90? No, it's not true. Therefore, this statement was not true, and this part is not going to be executed. It goes to check the next condition. So we check to see if 88 is larger than or equal to 75. So 88, is it larger than 75? Yes. So this statement is true. Therefore, we are going to execute this part of the code, which means that we are going to have the print of grade B in the output. So grade B is here being printed in the output. But if I change the mark one more time, for example, now I would like to have the mark to be 55. So I run the code, we see that the output is grade C. And here the compiler starts to 55 larger than 90. No. Then next condition 55 larger than 75. No. Then next condition 55 larger than 50. Yes, it's true. So this condition is true. Therefore, this part of the code is going to be executed, and we are having the grade C being printed here in the output, as we see here. But any number that is not going to pass any of these three conditions is going to fall in the else part. For example, if the mark is 25, so here I run the code, we see that 25 it's not larger than 90, it's not larger than 75, not larger than 50. Therefore, the compiler goes and execute the else part, which is printing the grade F in the output. So this is what we need to know about the basics of if conditions. But let us move on to the for loops. So when we would like to do something repetitive, we can, for example, we would like to print numbers that are between 1 and 10. If we want to do that, what we can do is the following. Let me comment these parts. What we can do is the following. So print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4. So we are going to continue printing up until the end. So when I run this code, we see that here we are having the output of 1 from 1 to 10. But it's a very hard work and it's exhausting, because if you want to print like 100 numbers, it's not easy to do it this way. So we are doing the coding because we would like to make our life easier. So this is not a good way to do it. The good way is to have a for loop that iterates through each element in a sequence and performing an action for each element. For example, instead of doing this, what I could do was to defining a for loop. For example, now I would like to print numbers from 1 to 5 using a for loop. In order to do that, I define the for loop range. So the for is the reserved keyword that we are going to have in Python, and I is my iterating variable here. So for each I that is in this range between 1 and 6, but why 1 and 6? We're going to start to have the print of numbers from 1 to 5, but why am I having the 6 here? The reason is that the starting point is included in the range, but the ending point is excluded. It's not included, let's say. Therefore, if I want to go from 1 to 5, I need to write down from 1 to 6. So for each I in this range, we are going to print I in each iteration. So in the first iteration, for example, we are having I equals 1, we are going to print 1. Then in the next iteration, we are having I equals 2, we are going to print 2. Then we are having I equals 3, we are going to print 3. Then we are having I equals 4, we are printing 4. Then we are having I equals 5, we are printing 5. So when I run this code, we see that here we are having the 1 to 5 being printed in the output. So this is much easier to be done rather than writing things manually ourselves. So instead of, for example, 6 here, I could write down, for example, 51. So it goes from 1 to 50. With one run, you see that everything is being printed here in the output with 2 lines of code instead of writing the print function like 50 times. So this is about for loops to help us have an easier life. Then we are going to discuss about while loops. With respect to while loops, we are going to write it down differently. So we are going to have a while loop for a specific condition. For example, I'm going to have a while loop as long as I is lower than or equal to 5 and I is initialized to 1. So in the condition of while loop, I'm going to check, okay, continue this while loop as long as I is lower than or equal to 5, and in each iteration print first of all the value of I and then increment the value of I by 1 value. So in the first iteration, I equals 1 because we initialize it to be. Then we are going to print 1. So we are printing 1 in the output. Then we are incrementing the value of I. So I plus equals 1 means that I equals I plus 1. So I equals 2 now. Why? Because we are adding 1 to an already initialized I equals 1. So 1 plus 1, I equals 2 now. So now we incremented the value of I again. So we go up. 2, is it lower than 5? Yes. So we are going to print 2 and we are going to increment the value of 2 by 1 value. So it will be 3. So we go up again. 3, is it lower than 5? We are going to print it first. Yes, 3 is lower than 5. We are going to print it first. And then we are going to increment it to be 4. We go up again. 4, is it lower than 5? We are going to print it, increment it to be 5. So 5, is it lower than or equal to 5? Yes, it is going to print the value of 5 for me in the output here, and then increment the value of 5 to be 6 now. So 5 plus 1 equals 6. 6, is it lower than 5? No, it's not lower than 5 anymore. Therefore, this while condition is finished because this condition is not true anymore. And we see when we run the code, we are having from 1 to 5 being printed in the output. Finally, we're going to talk about the functions. Here, in order to talk about functions, we need to first learn how to declare a function. In order to declare a function, we are going to have the def keyword, then the name of the function, which is add underscore numbers. Then we are having here 2 arguments, A and B. So whenever this function is called, we require to have two arguments, a and b. And this function basically is going to calculate a plus b for us. So it is going to return a plus b. So now how can we call the function? In order to call the function, I write down the name of the function, which is add numbers. And then in parentheses, I need to have two arguments. So I would like to add numbers 5 and 3. So I would like to have the 5 plus 3. So I call the add numbers function with these two numbers. So a will be 5, b will be 3. And we are going to have the output, which will be 5 plus 3. So this function is returning 5 plus 3 here for me, and that is going to be assigned to this result variable. Okay, then we are printing this simply this result variable. So when I run the code, we are having 8 being printed here in the output. We could have 5 plus 5, for example. When I run, we are having the output of 10. We could have 10 plus 5, for example. Now it will be 15. So why do we need to write functions? The reason is because it improves the readability of our code. For example, we would like to do additions in different parts of our code, so we don't have to write it many times. If we are going to have 100 times of doing the addition in throughout our code, we don't have to repeat these mathematical operation 100 times. We are going to have one function responsible for adding numbers, and whenever we need that, we are going to call this function, and this function is going to do the work for us. So this is how also we can work with functions. So in this video, in this lecture, we learned about if conditions, we learned about while loops, we learned about for loops, and we learned about the functions. Thank you for watching.